2002, I started a company at my first technology startup. And it was what we did was to create a competition for the IBMs and the HPs of the world at a much lower cost. It was so good that our market scaled to 3 geographies. We went to the United Kingdom, to Europe, and to US. In 2006, an unknown open source technology came along called Hadoop, right? When I heard of Hadoop, I thought people were joking. I was like, come on, something called Hadoop is going to take over the world? You've got to be kidding me. In 2007, I had to shut my company and sell it to the first buyer I could get. So that's what innovation is. It's a small spark that could trigger it, come about at anywhere, and could change the world for all the incumbents in the field. So the moral of today's presentation is that only continuous innovators survive. Nobody else survives. You can innovate once, you can be successful, but somebody will come along and kill you. So the question is, what does the United Kingdom do to make sure that we continuously innovate? That's what this presentation is about. I'm Chandan Rajah. These are my contact details. If you want to tweet me, you can. If you want to email me, certainly do. And do add me on LinkedIn. So firstly, what does the innovation landscape look like in the United Kingdom? Right? Innovation itself is, I've got it all the wrong order. But innovation itself is a box in the middle. You need something before innovation and something after it. So the thing before innovation is actually research. You've got to start right from graduates like yourselves in universities where the ideas come about, where on the technology readiness scale, as it were, you guys are right at the beginning, dealing with the advanced stuff, the blue sky thinking. Then it goes into some commercial products. Maybe there's a spin out of this university who says, I like my PhD thesis, I think I can make a company out of it, so let's do that. And then it doesn't stop. I mean, you make a company, so what? How do you actually benefit the economy? That's the big question. So the journey is all the way from research through innovation into the economy. And to do that, you need support systems. For example, for the research side, it's universities, research organizations. In the innovation side, you need one big centralized entity. In the UK, it's called Innovate UK, ironically. And on the other side, in the economy side, you need other industry support mechanisms, like how does an industry innovate? If you look at things that have changed the world, except Google and Facebook, 70% of all such innovations have come from large companies, right? So there's only a very small percentage that actually come from a small company. What normally happens is a small company starts in the middle, innovates something, and a large company gobbles it up and then takes it to market and delivers it to the economy. So that support system has to exist as well, a pipeline of companies waiting to acquire smaller companies. How does this look like in the UK? And the key message of here is all should be through unified strategy. Obviously, you can't do everything disparately. There should have an overall strategy for the whole country. How does this happen in the UK? If you look at the same scale, on the left-hand side, we have what we call research councils. So research councils are specialized, focus on specialized fields like agriculture or precision medicine or energy and so on and so forth. Within those councils, they allocate grants to the best ideas that come out from universities and to research projects that professors have. The next thing down the pipeline is a good old Innovate UK. So Innovate UK has a massive budget allocated to it, and Innovate UK has many tendrils into the economy. It has many different things that it does, most of which are funding innovative ideas from taking it from a research project to a proof of concept, to a proof of development, and finally to a proof of market. After Innovate UK is where my organization comes, the Catapult. The Catapult is a unique organization which is not a funding body, it's not an accelerator, it's in fact nothing that you can pinpoint. It's an organization that's there to identify innovative startup ideas and accelerate them through their journey without giving them money. So we'll talk about how we do that. The last bit is the economy. The Department of Business, Innovations and Skills is a government department that focuses specifically on these 3 topics, on how do we accelerate business, how do we create innovation, and how do we address the skills deficit. What they do, on the left, what's the overall strategy? How does it tie into all of these 4 things? Firstly, it's a research strategy. Try to find out specialized grants, create research institutions, which I will talk about. Try to find industry collaborations. It's all good and fine researching in a university, but how do you actually take that out? Who's going to build this? Universities don't have the resources to build production-grade solutions. You need a partner, and that's what that's all about, trying to create industry collaborations. The second thing is the digital strategy. How do we actually accelerate digital innovation within the economy? There's other things that we do in the UK. My area of interest is digital, so that's what that's about. It's about injecting capital into small companies, and these are companies which are the 4 to 5 mark of the TRL. So TRL is a scale. It's technology readiness. I can't remember what the L is for, but level, I guess. And it starts at 1 and ends at 9. 1 being blue sky thinking, me sitting on the stage here and coming up with a clever idea. 9 being a product that's available in the market, like that bottle of water on the table. So 4 to 5 is a sweet spot for innovation. That's where you have an idea that's almost proven, you've identified a market, and you're just ready to take off, but you need that little bit of a push. And that's what the Innovate UK tries to do through the digital strategy. The last one is the information economy strategy. This is all about getting skills into companies that are growing, identifying high growth companies and giving them the opportunity to grow faster. So, what is the innovator's dilemma? I've come up with a clever idea. I know how the ecosystem works. What is my dilemma? It comes down to 3 things, really. It's a pillar of commercialization, as I call them. So the first thing, it's about resources that I need to commercialize my idea and make money and buy my Ferrari, right? So the first is finance. I need to get funding from somewhere, right? I might be able to do it with my family money, but it's not going to take me very far. I need an angel investor or a larger organization. I need talent. I need smart people like you in this room to work and create this product. It's a vision that I have. I don't have the capability of building it. I need someone to build it for me. And finally, I need access. I need access to market. I need access to customers. I need access to experts, to advisors. This is the pillar. These are the pillars of commercialization. Only if I have all these pillars and they work synchronously with each other, can I take a product to market successfully. What do we do in the UK? The UK is quite unique in its approaching this problem. It actually highlights these 3 separate segments and targets them particularly. So on the finance side, you have government grants. You've got Innovate UK Innovation Competition. So those top 2 lines in pink are what the government does. You have another budding ecosystem. The lines in black is where you have the ecosystem to support this, to support funding, like the Angel Network. You have a whole series of accelerators and incubators coming from Silicon Valley. The model is being adopted in the UK now. You have venture capital associations, and you've got crowdfunding, which is something Morocco should think about, I think. It works very well in India, so it's something that Morocco should think about. From the talent side, right from the very top, it's integrated across all universities, all research areas. The strategy is integrated. It starts with the Higher Education Funding Council. It goes down to very technical, technology-focused institutes through that, and it goes all the way out of the country through the British Council, like I am here today, right? So that's what the government does there. Another thing which the government does which the ecosystem does very well, is create university partnerships. So universities have partnerships with other universities very effectively, and they collaboratively come up with very clever ideas. And that's something to think about as well. That has worked very well in the UK. On the access side, it's all about market knowledge and about getting customers. So Innovate UK funds something called the Knowledge Transfer Network. It's a massive network of people. It's basically a massive Rolodex, right? Where everybody, if you want some information, you call up someone in the Knowledge Transfer Network and they'll point you in the right direction. So there's a central Rolodex where you can go to approach, to get the answer to your problem. The second thing is what I work for, it's the Catapult network. So this is taking it to the next level. Okay, I've got the advisors, how do I get the customers? So that's where we come in. We try to bring large organizations looking for smaller organizations, and smaller organizations looking for B2B customers. That's what we do. The third one is take it outside the country. Okay, it's successful in the UK, but we're only 65 million. There's a big world out there. UK made an investment, takes it out to other countries so that we can create markets for startups in geographies that they didn't target initially. And finally, the Innovate UK community. Moving on, what does data innovation look like in the UK? Right, so that's my area of specialization, data innovation, big data, and data science. So in this, there are, if you look at a scale, I love to draw these diagrams, these graphs, they're brilliant. Anyway, on the right hand, on the horizontal axis, assume you have time and volume, and on the vertical axis you have value. We start right down here with government data. All data has an incremental value, which tapers off at a certain point, and after that, exploring that beyond that point is a bit pointless. If you've got the value from government data, what's the next leap? It's open data, right? If you've got open data, what's the next leap? It's personal data and closed data that resides within an organization that's not open. And finally, what's the holy grail? It's the Internet of Things. If you can harness the Internet of Things, you can create enormous value from data. So my focus is really trying to see which of these is going to bear fruit in the near future and try to maximize on creating ecosystems around it. So we'll talk about all four of these. So let's look at open data. We've got something called the Open Data Institute, where they came up with this lovely diagram, which said you've got an open government on one side, you have government data on the other side, and you've got open data, which is non-government open data on the other side. What if we put them all together in a pot and create open government data, assuming that the government is open enough to give you the data in the first place, which I'm a bit skeptical about in the UK, but hey, let's say it is. So what they've done is they've created this institute where the government has funded millions of pounds in making the data within the government available so that the first mark on the border is fully maximized. The value generated from it is fully captured. The next thing is local government data. So that's the data for the central government, local council data. This is an example. One of the projects that I was involved in was opening up the data of the transport network in London. Within opening it 2 months later, this app came about called the City Mapper app, which is very popular. What it does is it maps the city not in terms of Google Map distances of how long it takes to walk or drive, but how many minutes it takes to commute from one place to another. So if you're a Londoner like myself and you hate the bloody tube, then you can look at this app and try to find a place which it takes lesser time to get to work. This is how the value system, I'm going to leave these slides so you can have a look at it later. But the point is that within the center is where the open data is harnessed through a whole series of influxes. Personal data in action. I love this quote, by the way. I'm not sure who said it, but if no one said it, I said it. If data is the oil of the future, then personal data is the rocket fuel. So the things that we're doing is, what about first is we look at two sides of data. One of the data, personal data held within companies. How do we liberate that data? So there's a lot of initiatives called My Data initiatives where citizens give their consent for data to be explored and analyzed for their benefit. Second is data held within the government, right? So personal data about individuals held within the government. How do we get that data out of the government to be used in the economy? There is a program in the UK called Verify that lets the citizens select companies they're willing to allow their data to be utilized. And these companies can then offer them better services, like, give them a better rate on their energy consumption or tell them where is the nearest service school that's best for them and so on and so forth. The Internet of Things, data in action. This is very big in the UK. 5G, we are one of the driving forces of 5G. So the Internet of Things is very big and very close to my heart. So the first thing that we do is spend a lot in building demonstrators, not demonstrators in a lab, but citywide demonstrators. So Glasgow is a very good example. So I think 24 million investment was made to make Glasgow a living Internet of Things demonstrator where you have hubs and networks that you can connect your sensors to. There's a massive ecosystem. There's about 9 million investment into this ecosystem. There are local demonstrators. There are interoperability hubs built, so on and so forth. And finally, the biggest question with the Internet of Things is, how do I make my sensor work with your sensor and then our sensor to create a brave new world? It's not a very easy problem to solve. Everyone comes up with their own standards. So the HyperCAD project that Innovate UK is funding is one of the linchpins to solving that problem, where it tries to create an interoperability matrix between all possible sensor combinations that you have. Moving on, what about big data research? We finally come to my sweet and loved topic. So the investment in big data, the first thing that the government has done is to allocate 73 million in investment to drive data research and data science. And this is how it's allocated. Bioinformatics is the #1 target which we think we can liberate a lot of value. It's pretty much because there's 80 billion pounds of value locked away in health data, and this is including bioinformatics. Local authorities is the second big thing that we think we can do. Especially in the UK, optimizing local authorities is the #1 priority, so there you go. And finally, environment. The other thing is the setting up of Alan Turing Institute. It's a 42 million pound investment in creating an institute that specializes in data science and analytics. So this, if you remember in my first diagram, I spoke about the research council and the research organizations and institutes. This is one of them. And it's a big leap. It will be ready in 2 or 3 years. When it's ready, it will form the center of Europe for data science research. All right, so what's the Holy Grail then? We spoke about a lot of things. What's the key message over here? The key message is this. You have open data on one side, you have personal and closed and organizational data on the other side, and you obviously have the Internet of Things. The key Holy Grail is if you can get to the center of it, if you can combine these three in some sort of research project or some sort of ecosystem, that's where you unlock the billions and the trillions worth of value. And obviously, don't forget closed organizational data. This is something that we want to liberate as much as possible. That's it. Thank you very much.